Hey, church family, I wanted to give you a word this morning to just share with you a little bit about our regathering as a church. From Scripture, when the word church is used, it is the word in the Greek ecclesia. And ecclesia means a called out assembly. And called out, what are we called out from? We're called out from the world. And we are called together to assemble. So the very nature and definition of the word means that we assemble together. And we've taken a pause from that, a time out from that, while we've tried to be civilly obedient as the government has worked us through the coronavirus phases. And it's time to regather. At some point, we have to regather to be true to what God has called us to do, to be that called out assembly. Or, as the book of Hebrews says, we're not to forsake the assembling of ourselves together. So at some point, we know that we're going to have to come back together. So we want to do that in a good way, in a thoughtful way, and as safe as possible way for the church. In 2 Timothy 1:7, God says this through his word, "For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind." Some versions say self-control. And that's an important word. We should be courageous, and we should, as Christians, be the most courageous people, not only as we go back out into our world and our world starts to reopen, but we should be on the front line of that. But also, we should be courageous as we come back together. But there's also a word there that not only do we not have a spirit of fear, but we have a spirit of power and of love, and the last part is so important, of a sound mind or self-control. That means we make decisions in a thoughtful way, in an intelligent way, as the Lord guides us. So as we talk about regathering, there is going to be a courage that it's going to take to come back together for some, and I would encourage you in that. But for others, that using your sound mind that God has given you and self-control, there's going to be a time that as we regather, you cannot, because you might be immunocompromised, or you might have another condition, underlying condition, such as a heart condition or a lung condition, and we certainly understand that. So as we encourage people to come back together, don't feel bad if you have to stay separate for a while longer. If you're within our elderly population, or as I said, immunocompromised or have an underlying condition, that's okay. You just, as the Lord leads you, you filter back in as you can. And we get that. We understand that. So what we have done as we have thought through this is one of my friends that I've done ministry with for years and years, they developed a chart, and we have asked if we can kind of use that and modify it to fit our own needs. And so we have a chart that we have put together, and it's a phase 1, 2, and 3 chart that will go through our phases of reopening. And we are about to enter into the first phase. We'll have one more Sunday, May the 10th, of a drive-in service, and then May the 17th, we're going to regather in person. Our governor opened up the state last week, and we are waiting another 2 weeks before we regather, just to be on the safe side. And we're trying to, if we err on the safe side. Now, as your pastor, I know that there are some we've got people all over the spectrum. There are some folks that think possibly we never should have stopped meeting together. There may be, on the other end of the spectrum, some that think this may be still a bit too early, and then probably a great many of you that you're just ready. And so we understand that, and we want to respect all views on that, and just try to go and do this, and the staff will try to lead as the Lord is leading us. So we're waiting until May the 17th for phase 1. So not this Sunday, but the next. And so you're going to see on there the things that we're doing. We're starting with 2 services. In phase 1, we'll have a 9 o'clock service and 11 o'clock service. We are allowing some and encouraging some of the Sunday schools to meet if they can social distance, and if they don't have a need for the nursery. And one of the reasons that we're not doing during that 10 o'clock hour that we're being cautious as far as all the Sunday school classes coming back together. So we want to give the nursery a time and the child care areas a time to sanitize during that 10 o'clock hour. So then that prohibits some of our adult classes from meeting if they have need for the nursery during that 10 o'clock hour or child care. So there's a lot of moving parts to this. And you'll see in phase one, our 2 services, we're being very limited on what we're doing in regards to children's activities. We are providing a nursery for those 2 services. And a lot of things will be available for pickup where we don't have to pass things from hand to hand. Offering will be available to drop off, but we're not going to pass the plate. We're going to have a self-contained little communion where the juice and the wafer are together. People can pick that up. On the notes, the bulletins, all that will be on a table for pickup. And so a lot of practical things that we can do to try to do this in an intelligent way. And then we'll move into phase 2 at some point. We're calling that reconnecting. So we've got reopening in phase 1 and then reconnecting in phase 2, and we'll reduce the social distancing. In phase 2, we'll go back to 1 service. We'll begin to get things more back to what they were, what we would consider normal. And then ultimately to phase 3, we'll get everything back the way it was. That's kind of the goal. Now, we have left the dates on phase 2 and phase 3 to be determined. That allows us to lengthen out phase 1 as long as we need to, and start phase 2 whenever we think it's appropriate, and gives us some flexibility there in doing that. So I just wanted to give you that word. Remember, as the ecclesia, the church, we are called out of the world and we're called to assemble. So this is our goal, to reassemble ourselves. And then we are to do so in a courageous way, but a thoughtful way, in a way that we have tried to use the minds that God's given us and the leadership that he gives us through prayer and come back together in a safe and a thoughtful way. So I encourage you in that. And I want to just boast in the Lord on you as a church, because during these 8 weeks that we have not assembled in person, I've really seen you do what the church is supposed to do. You've ministered to one another. You've taken care of one another in some incredible ways. You've been faithful in doing that. You've been faithful in your giving in so many ways. We've just not missed a beat, but we have missed getting to see all of you and getting to assemble together in person. And so we are excited to get to go back to coming together and coming to the church building as the church. And so what we're going to do with this chart, so you can see it, so you can examine it, so you can look at it, is we're going to put that on the website, possibly on the Facebook page, put a link there, and you can go and you can look at that. It's not perfect. As I told one of our people the other day, I said, this is a set of guidelines, not rules. So these are not set in stone. So if we need to adjust, if we need to be flexible, if something doesn't work on that first week, then we can change things. And so think of them as a set of guidelines, just trying to do things in a smart way. So anyway, we look forward to it. We love you very much. And go to the website, fbcwaskom.org, or go to the Facebook page, and we're going to have this linked up today for you so you can see the phases of our reopening. And I look forward to seeing you this weekend, May the 10th, in our drive-in service, and then May the 17th as we come back together. Love you so much, church. Be encouraged, and we'll see you soon. God bless. Bye-bye.